The coffee was getting cold. Nathan sat in the window seat of a cafe on Walnut Street, sketchbook open, pencil in his hand for the first time in months. Saturday morning, early. The kind of early that used to belong to someone else. Rachel liked brunch at 11. Hated mornings. Called anyone up before 9. Clinically insane. He'd been drawing a building. Nothing specific. Just a structure that came out of his hand without a plan. Lines, finding other lines. The way design used to feel before it became another thing Rachel had an opinion about. The cafe was mostly empty. A barista wiping the counter. A woman reading a novel with their shoes off. The sound of the espresso machine and nothing urgent. Then his phone buzzed. He didn't look right away. That was new. 8 months ago, a buzz would have sent his hand to the screen like a reflex. Now it was just a sound. But he looked eventually, because 8 months isn't long enough to unlearn 5 years. Rachel, hey, I know we haven't talked. I just wanted you to know I've been thinking about you. I hope you're doing okay. 15 words. Soft, careful. Can the text that sounds like healing but feels like a hook. Nathan stared at it. His pencil was still in his other hand. The building on the page was half finished. He read the text again, and something in his chest moved. Not the sharp pull it would have been 4 months ago. Not the full body ache of 2 months ago. Something quieter. A tug on a rope that used to hold him, but was now fraying at the ends.
She's thinking about me.
He said it to the sketchbook, to the cold coffee, to no one. And then the voice came. The old one. The one that had lived in his head for 5 years and still paid rent there, even after Rachel had moved out. Maybe she's changed. Maybe the time apart helped. Maybe I should just write back. Something short. Something kind. What's the harm? He put the phone face down on the table, picked up the pencil, drew another line. The harm was a question he was still learning how to answer. Nathan Pryor was 32. He designed logos, websites, brand identities, the kind of work that let him be creative without having to be around people for 8 hours straight. He worked from a desk in his studio apartment in Northern Liberties, a 1-bedroom with good light and a fire escape he sometimes sat on when the walls felt too close. 8 months ago, this apartment didn't exist. 8 months ago, he lived with Rachel in a 2-bedroom in Fishtown. Her name on the lease, her furniture, her rules about shoes at the door and dishes in the rack, and how loud the music could be, and when was an appropriate time to have friends over, which was almost never because Rachel needed the apartment to be our space. He'd moved in after 6 months of dating. She'd made it feel like the most natural thing in the world. I just want to wake up next to you every day. And he'd felt lucky, chosen, like being with Rachel was proof that he was worth something. That feeling lasted about a year. Then it started to cost. The cost was small at first, so small he didn't notice. He stopped going to the gym because Rachel said it made her feel insecure when he looked too good. She didn't say it that way. She said, "I just miss you when you're gone. Can't you work out at home?" And he thought that was love. He stopped seeing his college friends because Rachel didn't like them. She didn't say that either. She said, "They're kind of immature, don't you think? I just feel like you've outgrown them." And he thought she was right. He stopped drawing. Not because she asked him to, because every time he sat down with a sketchbook, she'd sigh, or ask if he was done yet, or walk into the room and say, "I thought we were spending the evening together." And eventually the sketchbook moved from the desk to the shelf, to the closet, to the box in the back of the closet. 5 years. That's how long it took to go from the man who designed album covers for indie bands and stayed up until 3 drawing cityscapes that no one asked for, to the man who came home from work and sat on the couch and waited for Rachel to tell him what they were doing tonight. He didn't know what it was called. He just knew that somewhere in those 5 years, he'd gone quiet. Not silent, quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when you learn that having a voice costs more than keeping it. Leaving had been Rachel's idea. Sort of. She'd given him an ultimatum about his mother. Nathan's mom had made an offhand comment at Thanksgiving. Something about Rachel being a lot. And Rachel had decided that Nathan needed to choose her or his family. And for the first time in 5 years, Nathan hadn't chosen her. Not dramatically, not with a speech. He just said, "I'm not going to stop talking to my mother." Rachel had cried, then gone silent, then moved his things to the living room, then told her friends he'd been emotionally unavailable for years. And Nathan had stood in the apartment that had her name on the lease, looking at his life in boxes, and felt something he couldn't name. Not sadness, not relief. Space! Like a fist unclenching. The first 2 months were bad. The kind of bad where you wake up at 3 in the morning and your hand reaches for a phone to call someone who broke you because the breaking at least felt like contact. He called her twice. She picked up once. She cried. She said she loved him. She said she'd been going to therapy. She said things could be different. He almost went back. Almost. The pull was magnetic, not because she was right for him, because his nervous system didn't know the difference between love and what he'd been living in. 5 years of hypervigilance had wired him to interpret anxiety as connection. The absence of chaos felt like loneliness. The silence felt wrong. But he didn't go back, because something Marcus had said was stuck in his head like a splinter. Marcus Torres had been Nathan's design professor at Temple, a quiet man with a gray beard and a way of saying things once that made them permanent. They'd stayed in touch after graduation. Occasional beers, the kind of mentorship that evolves into friendship when the age gap stops mattering. Marcus had been divorced for 9 years. His ex-wife, a woman named Diane, had been, by his account, the most charming person in any room and the most dangerous person in his life. He'd recognized something in Nathan 2 years before the breakup. Never pushed, just asked questions. "How's Rachel?" In a tone that meant, "How are you?" When Nathan moved out, Marcus was the first person he called. They met at a bar in Fishtown. Small place, wooden booths, a jukebox that only played Motown.
Tell me what happened.
She gave me an ultimatum about my mom, and I didn't pick her. For the first time, I didn't pick her.
How did that feel?
Terrifying, like jumping off a building.
And now?
I don't know, like I'm falling, but also like the building was on fire and I didn't know it until I jumped.
Marcus took a sip of his beer, set it down carefully.
Can I tell you something I wish someone had told me?
Yeah.
The first thing you're going to feel is guilt. You're going to wake up every morning thinking you abandoned her, that she needs you, that if you just went back and tried harder, it would work.
I already feel that. I know, because that's how it's designed to work. The guilt keeps you in orbit. Even after you leave,
You're still circling. She doesn't need to control you anymore because you're controlling yourself. On her behalf.
That's exactly what it feels like.
The second thing you're going to feel is the pull. She's going to reach out. Maybe not right away, but when she does, it's going to feel like oxygen. Like you were drowning and she's offering air. And everything in your body is going to scream, "Go back."
What do I do?
You remember that the person offering you air is the one who held you underwater.
Nathan sat with that. The jukebox played something slow. The booth felt like a foxhole.
Did your ex reach out after the divorce?
Every time I started doing better. Like clockwork. I'd go to the gym, she'd text. I'd get a new client, she'd call. I'd post something happy on social media, she'd show up at my door. Not because she missed me. Because me doing well meant she was losing something, and she couldn't let that happen without trying to pull me back.
Rachel hasn't reached out yet.
She will. Give it time. When she sees you surviving, really surviving, that's when it starts.
That conversation was 6 months ago. Now, Nathan sat in the cafe with Rachel's text glowing on his screen and Marcus's words in his chest. The person offering you air is the one who held you underwater. He didn't respond. Not yet. But the phone stayed face down, and the pencil stayed in his hand, and the building on the page grew another floor. In the weeks that followed, Nathan noticed something he hadn't expected. He was getting better. Not in the dramatic movie montage way. In the small, invisible way that real healing happens. He went to the gym 3 times a week, not to get in shape, to remember that his body was his, that moving it, pushing it, sweating in it was something he was allowed to do without someone making him feel guilty about it. He called his mother on Sundays. Long calls, the kind where you talk about nothing, the garden, the neighbor's dog, a recipe she'd found online, the kind of call Rachel would have stood in the doorway during, arms crossed, waiting for it to end. He drew. Every morning before opening his laptop, he spent 30 minutes with a sketchbook. Buildings, faces, impossible machines. Things that had no purpose except to exist. Things that didn't need Rachel's approval. And he reconnected with Jay and Devin, the college friends Rachel had classified as immature. They played basketball on Thursdays. They ate bad pizza afterward. They talked about nothing important and laughed at things that weren't particularly funny, and Nathan felt in those moments more like himself than he had in 5 years. He posted a photo. Jay had taken it. Nathan at the basketball court, mid-shot, grinning. He looked happy, not performing happy, actually happy. He put it on Instagram with no caption, just the photo. 48 hours later, Rachel's name appeared on his phone again. Looks like you're doing well. I'm happy for you. Really. 5 days after that, I've been in therapy. I'm working on myself. I think we could have a really honest conversation now. 3 days after that, Nathan, I think you owe me at least a conversation after 5 years. Don't you think? And there it was, the escalation. Not rage yet. Something more familiar. The ratcheting of need disguised as reason. The first text was warmth. The second was vulnerability. The third was obligation. Each one a different instrument playing the same song. Come back. Nathan showed Marcus the text at their next Thursday hangout. Same bar, same booth.
Read them to me in order.
Nathan read them. Marcus listened without interrupting. When Nathan finished, Marcus nodded slowly.
You see the pattern?
She's escalating.
Exactly.
The first text is the hook. Friendly, light, deniable. I'm happy for you. If you'd responded to that, she'd have you in a conversation, and the conversation would end with you feeling guilty about something. The second is vulnerability. I've been in therapy. She's showing you her wound, so you'll lower your guard. And the third
Is pressure. You owe me.
Right. And if you don't respond to the third, there'll be a fourth and a fifth. And each one will push harder because each unanswered text is proof that she's losing control. And losing control is the one thing she can't tolerate.
She used to do this when we were together. Whenever I tried to set a boundary, even a small one, she'd go through the same cycle. Sweet first, then hurt, then angry. Then she'd tell me I was the one being unreasonable.
And it worked every time?
Every time. Because by the third stage, I was so confused I didn't know what was reasonable anymore. I just wanted the cycle to stop. And the fastest way to stop it was to give in.
That's the design. It's not random. It's not emotional. It's a system. Give in and the pressure stops. Hold your ground and the pressure doubles. Most people give in because the discomfort of holding is worse than the cost of folding. Until one day, the cost catches up.
5 years of costs.
And you're just now doing the math.
Nathan drank his beer. The bar was filling up. Someone had put Marvin Gaye on the jukebox. What's going on?
Can I ask you something? About your ex?
Go ahead.
When did you know? Like, when did you really see it?
3 months after the divorce, I'd started painting again. I used to paint. Did you know that? Big canvases. Abstract stuff. Diane hated it. Said it was self-indulgent. So I stopped. The way you stop doing something when someone makes you feel stupid for doing it.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
3 months after I left, I bought a canvas. A big one. I set it up in the living room and just started. And that night, she called. First time in weeks. Crying. Saying she missed me. Saying she'd realized what she lost. And I almost put the paintbrush down.
But you didn't.
I didn't. Because I realized something. She didn't call because she missed me. She called because I was coming back to life. And my life, my real life. The painting, the teaching, the things that made me me. Those were the things she'd killed first. And now they were growing back. And she could feel it.
Nathan sat very still.
You want to know what Jung called this? The thing that happens when something is pushed so far in one direction that it flips.
Yeah. Enantiodromia. It's a word he borrowed from Heraclitus. It means the reversal of extremes. When something reaches its furthest point, it converts into its opposite. She pushed you as far as she could, made you small, quiet, compliant, killed the parts of you that were most alive, and for 5 years you went along with it. But the thing about pushing a person to an extreme is that you're building a counterforce. Every day you were quiet, something inside you was getting louder. Every day you gave in, something was learning how to resist. And now, 8 months out, that counterforce is surfacing. You're drawing again. You're at the gym. You're laughing with your friends. You're sitting in a cafe on a Saturday morning like a human being. And she can feel it. She can feel the reversal happening. And it terrifies her.
Because if I keep going...
If you keep going, you become someone she can't reach. And for someone who built her entire sense of self around being able to reach you, control you, predict you, need you. That's not just uncomfortable. That's existential.
Nathan looked at his phone. 3 texts, 3 stages, 3 attempts to pull him back into orbit.
She said she doesn't recognize me anymore. Jess told me. She said Rachel keeps saying he's not the same person.
She's right, you're not. And that's the point. She doesn't recognize you because the person she knew was the one she made. The edited version, the one without the gym, without the friends, without the sketchbook. She built that Nathan. And when he started to disintegrate, she lost her reflection.
Her reflection? That's what you were. A mirror. She looked at you and saw proof that she was needed, important, in control. When you shrank, her reflection got bigger. When you gave up your friends, she became your whole world. When you stopped drawing, you had nothing left but her. And she liked that. Not because she's evil, because without that reflection, she doesn't know who she is.
The bar was louder now. People laughing, glasses clinking. But the booth felt sealed. A pocket of still air in a noisy room.
So when I started growing...
The mirror cracked. The person she sees when she looks at you now isn't compliant, isn't small, isn't hers. And that's why the texts are escalating. It's not love. It's not missing you. It's the panic of someone watching their own reflection walk away.
Nathan turned his phone over, looked at the screen, Rachel's texts, stacked one on top of another, each one a different shade of the same color. He locked the phone and put it back on the table.
She's going to get worse, isn't she?
Probably. When I stopped responding to Diane, she went through 3 phases. First came the guilt. How can you do this to someone who loved you? Then came the revision. She started telling our friends I'd been emotionally abusive. People I'd known for years started looking at me differently. And then came the silence. Not peace. Extinction. She ran out of fuel and moved on to someone else.
That's dark.
It's the pattern. And it's not personal. I know that sounds impossible when you're in it, but the escalation has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the hole inside her that you used to fill, and now you're not filling it. And the hole is getting louder.
Nathan didn't say anything for a while. He peeled the label off his beer in thin, careful strips.
I keep going back to the good times. That's the hardest part. She wasn't always like this. The first year was incredible. She made me feel like the most important person in the world. She remembered everything. My favorite coffee order, the song I played at my sister's wedding, the name of the dog I had when I was 12. She made me feel seen.
I know. That's what makes it so confusing. Because the person who hurt you is the same person who made you feel alive, and your brain keeps trying to reconcile those two things. Keeps saying, maybe the good one is the real one. Maybe the bad one was just stress, or fear, or my fault.
Is it possible that the good one was real?
Maybe some of it was. Early on, before the pattern set in. But here's the thing I had to learn the hard way. It doesn't matter. Whether the good times were real or strategic, the result is the same. You ended up small. You ended up without friends, without your art, without your voice. A real love doesn't do that. A real love doesn't need you to be less so it can feel like more.
Nathan nodded, slowly, the way you nod when something you already knew finally settles into the part of you that believes it. The escalation came the way Marcus said it would. First, more texts, longer, more urgent. I can't believe you're just going to throw away 5 years. I gave you everything, Nathan. He didn't respond. Each silence cost him something. A knot in his stomach, a sleepless hour, the ghost of her voice asking, Why are you doing this to me? But the cost was getting smaller, like a tax he was learning to pay. Then came Jess. She called on a Wednesday. Nathan almost didn't pick up. But Jess was a friend, or she had been, before Rachel had turned her into a messenger. Nathan, I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything. But Rachel is really hurting. She says she doesn't even recognize you anymore. She says you've become this cold, distant person, and she doesn't understand what happened. I just think maybe you should talk to her, even just once, for closure? Nathan held the phone to his ear and felt the words land like stones on glass. She doesn't even recognize you anymore. The sentence was Rachel's. The mouth was Jess's. And the purpose was clear. Apply pressure from a direction Nathan wouldn't expect. Through the channel he wouldn't suspect.
Jess, I appreciate you calling. But I'm okay, and I don't think a conversation with Rachel is going to help either of us right now.
She's your friend, Nathan. She cared about you. The least you can do is hear her out.
I know she cared about me. I'm not saying she didn't. I'm saying I need space.
Okay, I feel like I'm watching two people who love each other throw it away. Nathan said goodbye. He sat on the fire escape and looked at the city. The sun was going down, the buildings were turning orange. She doesn't recognize you anymore. The sentence played on repeat, and each time it played, it sounded a little different. The first time one up, an accusation. You've changed. You're wrong for changing. The second time, a confession. She can't control you anymore, and it's visible. The third time, a statement of fact. She doesn't recognize you because the person she knew was the one she built, and that person doesn't live here anymore. 2 days later, Rachel changed strategies. Nathan found out through Instagram, a story, not a post, something designed to be temporary. A photo of her at a restaurant with friends, captioned, "Surrounded by people who actually show up." Then another, a quote graphic. "Not everyone who says they love you has your best interests at heart." Vague, deniable, but aimed. Every mutual follower would see it. Every one of them would draw the same conclusion. Nathan was the villain. He called Marcus.
She's posting about me. Not directly, but everyone knows.
What's she saying?
The usual. Vague inspirational stuff that's actually a weapon. Surrounded by people who actually show up. Not everyone who says they love you.
The smear campaign.
Is that what this is?
It's the next phase. She couldn't reach you directly. She couldn't reach you through Jess. So now she's reshaping the narrative for an audience. She's not trying to get you back anymore. She's trying to make sure that when people think of Nathan, they think of the version she's describing. The cold one. The one who abandoned her. The one who doesn't show up.
But that's not... None of that is true.
Doesn't matter. She's not building a case. She's building a story. And stories don't need to be true. They just need to be first. The person who tells the story first controls the narrative.
What do I do?
Nothing. You do absolutely nothing. You don't respond. You don't post your own vague quotes. You don't call mutual friends to set the record straight. Because the moment you engage, you become a character in her story. And her story only works if you play the role she's written for you.
And if I don't play it?
Then the story dies. Not fast, not clean, but
it dies. Because stories need fuel, and your attention is the fuel.
Nathan drove home that night with the window down and the late autumn air cold on his face. He thought about what Marcus had said, about the reversal, about the mirror, about the person Rachel had built, and the person who was replacing him. He thought about the sketchbook on the cafe table, the building that had no plan, lines finding other lines. He'd been doing that for 8 months. Lines finding other lines, the gym, the friends, the drawing, the Sunday calls with his mom. Small, unplanned acts of becoming that had no blueprint except the thing inside him that Rachel had silenced and that was now slowly learning to speak again. She didn't recognize him. Good, because the person she recognized was a draft she'd edited, a building she'd drawn the blueprints for, a version of Nathan that existed only in relation to her, smaller, quieter, emptier, perfectly calibrated to reflect her back at herself. And this Nathan, the one with the sketchbook and the sore muscles and the bad pizza on Thursdays, this Nathan was his own architecture. Unfinished, imperfect, but his. The last text came on a Sunday night, 3 weeks after the Instagram posts. 3 weeks of Nathan's silence and Rachel's slow, seething recalibration. He was sitting on his fire escape, sketchbook in his lap, drawing the skyline. The air was cold enough for a jacket. He could see his breath. The phone buzzed. He looked. Rachel, you're going to regret this. Everything I did for you. Everything I sacrificed. And you can't even give me one conversation. You've become someone I don't even recognize. Congratulations. He read it twice, let each word land. She was right about one thing. She didn't recognize him. And for the first time, Nathan didn't hear it as an accusation. He heard it as the truest thing Rachel had ever said. Because the person she recognized, the one who dropped everything when she called, who apologized for things he didn't do, who traded his sketchbook for her silence, who made himself small enough to fit inside her story, that person had been a survival mechanism. A shape he'd held for 5 years because holding it was easier than the alternative. And the alternative was this fire escape, this cold air, this sketchbook, this life that didn't orbit her anymore.
She's right. She doesn't recognize me.
He said it out loud, to the skyline, to the breath hanging in the air.
Because I finally do.
He looked at the text one more time. His thumb hovered over the screen. In the old days, he would have written back. Something careful. Something designed to de-escalate. I'm sorry you feel that way. Maybe we can talk soon. I didn't mean to hurt you. Words that cost him a piece of himself every time he assembled them. He locked the phone, set it on the railing, picked up the pencil. The skyline on the page was getting clearer. Lines finding lines. A city built by someone who wasn't trying to please anyone. He didn't write back. Not because he was punishing her. Not because he was making a point. Because the conversation she wanted wasn't a conversation. It was a door. And he knew what was on the other side. The same room he lived in for 5 years. The same walls, the same shrinking. And he just spent 8 months finding out how big the world was when he wasn't in that room. He wasn't going back. His phone buzzed twice more that night. He didn't look. He drew the skyline until his fingers were numb from the cold, and then he went inside and made himself dinner. Eggs, toast, the coffee he liked that Rachel said was too strong. He ate at the table by the window. The apartment was quiet. Not the loaded quiet of a room waiting for someone's mood to decide the weather. Just quiet. The honest kind. The kind that doesn't cost anything. He thought about Marcus, about the painting, about enantiodromia, the reversal of extremes. 5 years of being small, building a counterforce so powerful that when it finally broke the surface, it looked like a man drawing on a fire escape. It looked like bad pizza and basketball and coffee that was too strong. It looked like nothing. It looked like everything. He washed his plate. He set the sketchbook on the desk for tomorrow morning. He plugged in his phone without looking at the screen. And he went to bed. In his apartment. In his bed. In the quiet. In the silence that Rachel had weaponized for 5 years. The silence she used to punish him, to control him, to make him feel alone even when she was standing right there. That silence had changed. It wasn't her silence anymore. It was his. And it didn't feel like loneliness. It didn't feel like punishment, which felt like a room he'd finally stopped renting from someone else. And for the first time in 5 years, the quiet didn't make him reach for his phone. It made him close his eyes. And sleep came easily. The way it does when you're not afraid of what you'll wake up to. The way it does when the person lying in the dark is someone you recognize.